The budget thing, and I know that it's really hard when there's all these budget cuts coming down.
Yeah, it was just good. Autism, born with hydrocephalus. She had a shunt put in which takes the water away, but she's never needed that replaced, luckily. Started having severe seizures when she was 11 months, and that was several years where she was having even up to 30 seizures a day. Luckily that has subsided quite a bit. And she's got learning disability. She's non-verbal, tries to communicate with signs and noises, as you can hear. And she's a feisty lady.
We knew, Mum and Dad and me as the third legal guardian, as the brother, that no matter what happened to any of us, Ruth was going to be safe and she was going to be... Yeah, you were going to be alright, eh? Yeah.
After looking after Ruth and caring for her for so long, it really took a long time for us to start adjusting to Ruth being in her own accommodation. And then of course the foundations were ripped away from that.
Installing the service could be easier or
The kind of explanation was that, as I say, that she it was so that people were staying over to prove that they needed to stay over.
Okay.
And it was coming even from the government saying that they needed to show where the funding was going. So it was expressed in that way that this would be the best way to show proof that she still needed somebody. But further on, they were beginning to explain, well, actually we think it might work with her, and we went, no. And at the end of it, they just said, no, we've decided, the trial is over, and that's fine. We can go ahead with it, and it starts on the 9th, and that was only a week and a half ahead.
And we hear about how the fire brigade say, this isn't safe. We talk to the police and they say
We actually got a copy of the AP1 form that the fire brigade completed and sent to East Renfrewshire.
And then the police came back and said that they're beginning to have to devote some resources to things because they're finding that people in these overnight technological care systems are wandering out of homes and having to be brought to safety by police officers. And then Ruth's GP wrote a letter condemning this, and it just seems like every turn we keep talking to new people, and it's not like anyone's turned around and we're like, oh no, it'll be a good idea in the end, this is all great. Nobody is, and
that's what I find really difficult. It's just like that everybody else is like, no, this is not right for Ruth, except East Renfrewshire Council.
If someone like Ruth, who can't talk, who can't walk, who needs washed and fed and toileted and cared for, sorry Ruth, but all these things, and she doesn't get a humans looking after her overnight, and who does? I've started to hear from lots of different people that this is happening to them, so I've had messages from a couple of different families now, and even an individual themselves who is able to communicate and is dealing with this themselves, and they're not getting the overnight care, and it's in East Renfrewshire, but it's also happening in Glasgow. And we know that this was nearly going to happen to someone we know with complex needs similar to Ruth in East Lothian, and they were able to stop it by petitioning the council. So when I think about our situation with all the support we have, it makes me really sad and horrified to think about what it must be like for the people that don't really have any support and are on their own, and then having to deal with this same thing being pushed upon them. I think in the midst of all the madness and the chaos and the pressure, I think there's a bit of the kind of human side of it that's been missed, and trying to save 70% of the overnight care budget in East Renfrewshire by replacing it with technology for just about everyone, I don't think that's a really good human way to survive the cuts. Ruth is a human, being left overnight for 10 hours, you know, doesn't get to have water, doesn't get to go to the toilet, that's not something anyone else has to do. Yeah.
They have
So
it.
why does that have to happen for Ruth?
Yeah.